Hey, welcome back, listeners and viewers. We're here with another episode of the Power of Nine podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Eggert. My guest today is a partner at a Twin Cities financial staffing firm that aligns contract talent with clients to create a mutually successful outcomes. Say that 3 times real fast, Aaron. Let's get this party started and share the journey of my friend, Susan Haugen. Susan, thank you so much for finally being on this show.
Aaron, it's a treat. I joined some esteemed company and people who've already been on your podcast. And you know what a fan I am of C9. So
I know.
Excited to further my integration in your organization.
Well, and I love this podcast because one, I get to learn more about you through this process. And then two, it's about time we put a bit of a spotlight on you. So you've been a member now for a while. And, you know, I love this podcast because I can put a spotlight on people like yourself. And so let's dive in. Let's get to know you a little bit. Let's tell your story. Paint me a little bit of a picture of your upbringing and what it was like to be little Susan.
I was little at one time. So I grew up mostly in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. My dad was in the Marine Corps just up until I was born. So I was technically born in Yuma, Arizona. He was a Huey pilot in Vietnam.
Cool.
Wow. He was a captain.
Yeah.
It was, we didn't know that, what a big deal that was for a long time.
And wait a second. Yeah. He was a Huey pilot. That is a massive helicopter. That is a very cool piece of machinery.
Yeah. He didn't want to be drafted, of course. So this was 1967, 68. It was inspiring enough to finish his college education so he could join as an officer, go to officer candidate school, the whole officer and a gentleman thing. Yeah. And then went to Vietnam as a Marine, as a Huey pilot, like I said, for 13 months. And we didn't really talk about that for most of my childhood. And then on a business trip, he visited the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C., and things started to flow. And now he is a very proud Marine Corps vet, Marine Corps birthday, Semper Fi. You know, it's a huge deal, especially that he came home alive.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think... Yeah. You know, I'm going to jump into this a little bit early, but we always talk about kind of the nature versus nurture continuum. And I always find it fascinating, especially children of military parents. You know, obviously there's maybe travel involved and things like that for some people, and, you know, military brat or whatever some people say, where it doesn't really sound like that's 100% the case here. But in the grand scheme of things, the military creates certain amount of structure for people and people that have been in it for a while. And then, you know, in a situation like this, where someone was in Vietnam and maybe they kind of suppressed some feelings and suppressed some of those things, and then all of a sudden it came out. Did it have an effect on you from a structure standpoint of how the house was run and things like that? Or was it the opposite, where it was almost like a little rebelling to where he just was a little more loosey-goosey because he was finally out of the military?
That's a great question. My one brother is 3 years older. So my brother had been born when my dad left for Vietnam, leaving, you know, my mom and my brother. And then I love to think about him coming back, all these vets coming back and living at this base in Yuma, Arizona, and having kind of the celebration baby, right? I mean, just to imagine, right? All these families were reunited on the base. And so that part was really done by the time I came along. And frankly, I would say that my mom, kind of based on her upbringing, was more the disciplinarian in our family and the structure. And my dad always had that fun-loving, you know, had he not been forced, well, he probably would have graduated college, but he was the more fun guy, right? And then did go to Vietnam and, of course, came home a different person, right? Tried every day to stay alive and get home for his family. So I think it's atypical in what you think, having a Marine Corps dad.
Yeah.
But his drive and his organization and his success, you know, he is for sure the man I admire most in my life, right? Dads can set such a high bar.
Yeah.
And then he, you know, he did a few things as people do. And then the bulk of his career was as a CEO of growing HMO organizations, kind of an early form of what we now know as health insurance. And so he would grow them and sell them. So he introduced me to business. Certainly, that was my idea of what, you know, parents did.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we'll get into this, but that did move our family around a little bit. So he was a great example of achieving and kind of that business persona, I think.
Did you move around quite a bit when you were a kid?
Well, I don't remember. Well, I guess we got to Eau Claire when I was about 3. So I have my deepest roots are in Eau Claire.
Hmm.
And when I was 15, we moved to Maryland to a really tiny town between the Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic on the Delmarva Peninsula. And I always say I was so lucky to think of that as an adventure, not a punishment, because moving at 15 can be
Yeah.
not delightful.
Yeah, for
It was
sure.
it was a new culture. It was fun.
How long did you stay out there?
So I was there through high school, and then I somewhat coincidentally came back to the Twin Cities for college. My parents were there for another couple years, so I went back for summers,
Hmm.
and then they moved to Madison, and then they moved to Dallas. We'll get to this later, but I followed them to Dallas for a little while professionally, and now we're all back.
Were you a good kid?
They thought so.
That's not what I asked. I don't give a shit what your parents say. I don't care about what you say. Were you a good kid? Were you under, oh, so sounds to me like you're under the radar troublemaker and maybe not too bad, but maybe a little bit of an under the radar troublemaker.
Yeah, I definitely was an under my brother paved a really nice wide path for me. So
So everything else was peaches and cream after he got done with it.
totally. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly. So
yeah,
I think probably I continue to know how to manage things, but still have fun.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What'd your mom do?
So she started in teaching, and then interestingly, when I was kind of in middle school or junior high, she worked at the telephone company. She was a customer service rep.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved that. So this was a job where she would always say, you didn't start work at 8 o'clock. You'd already got your coffee and your bathroom break and you had your headset on at 8 o'clock. Right. And so
Yeah.
it was my dad, the CEO, who took me to the allergy shots, and
Mm.
he totally respected her career
Yeah,
and what her job needed her to do.
that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And she's a travel agent for a minute.
Yeah.
But I would say probably that phone company was maybe her identity, getting the kids in school and getting established again and getting credibility.
Where do you think the finance slash economics slash accounting slash all that stuff, where do you think that came from?
So I love this question because I've been thinking about this lately. So my dad says, "Well, you should be an accountant." I don't know what he said, and I was like, "Oh my God, Dad, I would never be an accountant. Like, that is so lame." And then I swear until this year, I don't think I put it together that my first summer home from college, he had me work for him or offered me a job with him, and he put me in the accounting department. And it was just awesome, right? Like, kind of at the most basic level, we accounting types like puzzles. We like when things fit together, a tidy solution. So literally working on account recs in this small town accounting department, I was like, this is great.
Mhm.
And then went back to McAllister and said, oh my gosh, I got to figure out how to be an accountant at this liberal arts college. So I won't say he tricked me into it, but I would say he was smart about exposing me to it.
Yeah.
And I think we might get into this later, but there's a talent shortage in accounting, and it's a branding problem, right?
Hmm.
People,
Hmm.
I fell prey to it X years ago. It's a great career, but it doesn't have a good brand,
Yeah,
good
right.
image.
It's not sexy or anything like that, like marketing and some of these other sales and all that other stuff that people do. But now we'll go 9 ways a Sunday on this, even though finance and sales go hand in hand in their own interesting way and things like that. Do you think that just naturally the way that you're wired and the way the nature side of things, do numbers come relatively easy to you?
Yeah. And I think when I'm talking to young people, you take that first accounting class, you either understand debits and credits or you don't. And if you don't get that, then just go into marketing or
Yeah, yeah,
finance. But
yeah.
I'm real process oriented, tidy, orderly. That all speaks to me. So I would say that's the kernel of that. And luckily, then, a lot of people take that into a different direction. So taking that into staffing and maximizing accounting careers, right, well, I feel lucky, but it feels like a natural extension.
I find it fascinating. I don't know if I know too many people that went to McAllister and had an emphasis on finance. And why McAllister?
So there I was in Maryland, and my criteria was small school in a big city. Like really, that was my only
Mm.
criteria. As a National Merit Scholar, I had free rides at American University in DC and Trinity. There was a college in Texas, and thank you to my parents for not saying I had to take the free college. Right, that's a big deal.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and so, I mean, I don't even remember where else I looked in terms of small school in a big city, but McAllister just was so delightful. I might say my favorite thing that I got out of it is a gang of super intelligent, wonderful friends.
Yeah.
It was a lot. I think a lot of people, this is what college is about, right? You get there and you
Yeah.
find your people and you're like, oh, that's why high school didn't make any sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was amazing. I mean, college is charmed life anyway, right? And
Right.
hopefully you know it when you're there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you do some college, Aaron?
I am college dropout, proud college dropout after a couple months. Just
Couple months, okay.
not my jam. I am not a conventional learner. I battle a little bit of what I think is some mild dyslexia based on what everything I have been told. So yeah, not my jam, and I think, but I do think like liberal colleges like that, like a McAllister or, MIAC schools and stuff like that. Those I think about are like growth schools, like common sense schools, right? They help you build new relationships. They help you focus and develop as a human being. If I were to flourish in an environment, it would probably be like a McAllister or something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Critical thinking. I think communication skills is likely the biggest thing that I got out of that, being able to articulate, in an email or in the conversation. Yeah.
And then was it your decision or was it decided for you or whatever to go get your MBA?
I was at Pillsbury and they would pay for it. So I started it. So I think it just seemed like what you did. And I get that question all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
From should I do a CPA or an MBA or both? I'll probably insult somebody if I say this, but at the time I thought, what's the cheapest and easiest way to buy an M and a B and an A? And it was clear.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that probably think about it. Like even to this day, I think they think about it now. I even see people that are like, okay, do I need an MBA to work in small business? And, at the time, even if once we're going to get into your career and stuff there, a little bit of corporate emphasis where I think is super important, where sometimes an MBA isn't going to check all the boxes you need in small business because experience matters so much.
Yeah. And I did after public accounting, after I think 3.5 years in public accounting, it was time to do something else. And I thought either I'll go corporate or I'll go MBA. And I did visit Penn. I don't know where I ever got the idea that I wanted a Penn MBA. And it was like a huge amount of work. And then kind of to sweat that investment, you had to go into management consulting. And I just didn't really, I kind of felt like with my CPA, I'd done that work, hard work So I ended up I ended up taking a corporate job and then kind of picking up like the MBA, like I said, not a lot cheaper.
And so we'll get into some of that here. I have two questions before we take a quick break here and we get into your career. One is going to be related to what we're talking about. One is going to be completely off the wall. I'll start with the related one. So as you look back on all the decision to get your MBA, do you think that had a positive effect on your trajectory? Or do you feel like if you were to do it over again, that maybe it wasn't as necessary as you thought it was at the time?
In all honesty, and I'm a very honest person, it probably wasn't.
Yeah. I'm just curious about that. I think people approach it differently and I think it's perceived differently and things like that. And I think there's got to be desire there. All right, good. Thanks for shooting me straight. That's what I was hoping for. All right. Yeah, go ahead.
I do think a Kellogg MBA from Northwestern, when you meet somebody with a Kellogg MBA, you know it. Right. Oh, really? I do think yeah.
Why? Give me one example of why.
Strategic.
They just wire you for that. They prepare you for that. Yeah. That's fascinating. Okay. Non-related question to any career stuff. And I wanted to ask this a little earlier, but I didn't feel the time was right. For those of people that are on YouTube and watching this, who is over your left shoulder?
Art from the basement. I don't know. I like to think she's a Rembrandt.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some weird stuff here, but this is my Zoom corner, right? I mean, this is frankly my home office, but yeah. We could give her a name.
Well, let's do that during the break. All right. We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna dive into Susan's career here and listen to a few of our community supporters. Let's dive back in with Susan when we get right back. Every year brings new challenges for Minnesota business leaders, and USI Insurance is here to take the pressure off of the employee benefits decision. Having a local presence with national resources, USI combines a client-centric culture with leading-edge technical resources so you can make an informed decision on your benefits investment. The USI team has been deeply committed to investing into our local communities and utilizes their expertise to provide solutions you can count on to protect your greatest asset, your employees. USI has been partnering with Twin Cities businesses for decades, and they would welcome the opportunity to do the same for you. Visit USI.com to learn how USI's approach to risk management and employee benefits delivers customized, actionable solutions with bottom-line impact. When you think of a typical CPA firm, you probably think of tax planning. Well, that just scratches the surface of what Boulay offers their clients. By providing smart, in-depth thinking from experts in accounting, audit, tax, and business consulting, they know what it takes to achieve financial success. Whether it's protecting your business, building your wealth, or securing your future, you can count on Boulay to go beyond addressing just financial matters and providing you with tailor-made, workable solutions. Learn about all they have to offer at BoulayGroup.com. Boulay, helping you get there. The topic of talent is hot in organizations of any size, and I would argue none more than small to mid-sized businesses. That's why it's crucial to have a partner to help you navigate all the HR idiosyncrasies so you can focus on working on your business and not in it. Insperity is a full-service HR partner with a high-touch, high-tech platform helping owners work through challenges like employee retention, company culture, and benefits, just to name a few. Do yourself a favor and explore all they have to offer at Insperity.com. Insperity, HR that makes a difference. Mason Jar Marketing helps businesses bridge the gap between marketing and sales so they can crush goals. They're a collaborative partner, one who translates strategic priorities into actionable, goal-aligned tactics. You can count on them to deliver creative expertise and flawless execution for all marketing channels, no hand-holding required. If you're ready for a partner who listens well, thinks big, acts fast, and drives results, schedule a complimentary marketing needs assessment at masonjarmarketing.com.
Are you a local business owner looking to take your enterprise to the next level? Look no further than Security Bank and Trust Company, your partner in growth. Our dedicated team of smart, experienced bankers understand the unique challenges and opportunities facing businesses like yours. With personalized financial solutions and expert advice, we're here to help you succeed every step of the way. From tailored business loans to cutting-edge digital banking services, Security Bank and Trust is committed to your success. Experience the difference a local bank can make. Visit us today at any of our convenient locations or online at security-banks.com. Security Bank and Trust, growing together.
Kaisa Wealth Management treats each client like a member of the family. Acting as your personal CFO, we are fiercely devoted to your financial prosperity. At Kaisa, our wealth strategies are aligned with your core values, creating a wealth plan centered around the legacies you wish to create. This is our Kaisa commitment. Our wealth strategies are dynamic and tailor-made for your long-term goals because as a family investment firm, excellence in service is not just a promise, it's our baseline. Whether it's selling a business, planning succession, creating a legacy, navigating life's changes like death and divorce, supporting executives on the move, planning for your retirement, or just preserving your family wealth, we are here for you. Find out how we can help to simplify your wealth at kaisawealth.com.
All right, we're back here with Susan Haugen, Scouts Talent. I'm super pumped to dive into this career part because I think it's going to start to continue painting the picture of your journey here. What was your first quote unquote, air quotes, real job out of college?
It was an auditor at Grant Thornton.
And how'd that go?
It was awesome. That's so fun. I was at a networking event about 2 weeks ago, and a mom had her daughter there and said, "Oh, do you think my daughter should go into marketing or accounting?" And I got a chance to get on my biggest possible soapbox about public accounting. Because like I said, people ask me, should I get a CPA or an MBA? And my gut says is that when people see a CPA, what they want is public accounting, where you come out of college into this group of grown-ups, right? You're in front of the controller at XYZ company in week 3, right? You mature like that, you know? Mm-hmm. And at Grant Thornton, I think we were like number 7 in the big 6 at the time. But I rationalized, well, if I was at Arthur Andersen, you know, I would be auditing cash for 6 months. And here at Grant Thornton, I'm like right into it with this company, right? I have a bigger role at a smaller company. So I think to me, what that CPA means at its best is you were in public accounting, you were running jobs, you were making decisions. You weren't sitting in a cube at United Health Group with the ladies, right? So it was delightful. I really enjoyed it and definitely still know some of those people for sure.
How long did you spend there?
3.5.
3.5. So, I was looking at your LinkedIn profile and like your career journey, and it feels like there was like some jumps just to get your experience. Did you know that was going to be, and you like right after Grant Thornton, you went to Dallas, I think, right? Like what you alluded to?
Yeah, so Grant Thornton, and then I went upstairs to Pillsbury, and I had a couple accounting jobs there leading up to this. Again, super fun. For a long time, that was my best favorite job, was plant controller in a dough plant in Dallas, Texas. So literally crescent rolls, chubs of cookie dough, exactly like you'd think. And talk about growing up, right? Being part of the management team, making decisions, sitting in on union negotiations.
Yeah.
It was super fun. And, trying out Dallas, living in the far suburbs, in the Ashley model of that was totally different than it was a great experience. Eyes wide open.
Yeah. Yeah. How is the culture different from going from the East Coast to then Minneapolis and Minnesota / Wisconsin and then down to Dallas? Like, did you find that was a little bit, and then being a controller of a manufacturing facility of food, like, was that a culture shock for you a little bit?
So on the one hand, they told me at headquarters, and this was kind of a typical rotation, that controllers would go in for 2 years and then come back. It was real Southern, right? They're going to honey you, just be prepared for how these people are going to treat you. That's different than what you're used to. And, out of McAllister, I was pretty liberated, right? Like, and going to work in the plant and the Southern culture, that was very different. Yeah. Dallas itself, that plant was up on the Oklahoma border. So it was a little more rural and Southern. Dallas itself was interesting because it was kind of that Anytown, USA. It was McKinney, which I think is a huge suburb now. Again, Anytown, USA. There's a Navy, there's a Red Lobster, there's a, you might drive by your house because it looks like every other one. But everybody in our neighborhood, it was so stratified. Everybody was almost exactly the same age. Maybe was on their way to having one kid, and in 3 years was going to move to the next ring of houses. Right? And I would never live that way in my real life, but it was fun to play with.
Yeah. And so how long did you spend there at Pillsbury and then in Dallas?
Just about 2 years. And then frankly, the General Mills acquisition was pretty quickly after. So that might have come to a natural end if we hadn't gotten impatient to come home.
Mm-hmm. So, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. In some of so you worked at a software company, you worked at a medical device company, and then it kind of feels like you went into almost like there was a switch that flipped in your career to where you went into sales, and whether it be biz dev or whatever. When did you realize that you're good at, because you're good at it? Like, when did you realize you're good at taking all of the discipline of the finance and accounting and all that background that you have, all that experience that you have and all this stuff, and then blending it with the discipline you need? And I think it's a craft. And you probably recognize that, doing it for a while now, the craft of sales. Where did you realize that was something that you wanted to do?
Well, so just briefly, I think of my career in 3 chunks: this CPA corporate accounting chunk. And then I think a really important flip switched when I had what I call my last bad permanent job, and I became a consultant. So the middle third of my career was being an accounting consultant and seeing the power that this format of work, consulting, that's frankly, the Twin Cities is the biggest market for accounting and finance consulting. And we won't end this podcast without my passion for that way to work coming out. But I was doing that work. And then it was kind of natural to start selling that work. So I don't think at any point of being an accountant, anyone could have told me I'd start selling. But I would say that I had a natural affinity with working with friends, specifically like on resumes and interviews, but helping them articulate their brand, right? Helping people see what their talents were and kind of what the next steps were for them. So I think that was the natural key into this selling and recruiting lifestyle, if you will.
And
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And you said something in there that I think is fascinating. I want to dive into is that and maybe what precipitated this a little bit of some changes was a bad, quote unquote, bad job. Without getting into detail, what dictates, and I got a little bit of a smirk on my face for those that are not watching this, what dictates a bad job?
Oh, it was the hideous leader. There at that time, there were like 5 really known terrible leaders in the Twin Cities, and you knew them because they couldn't keep employees. They had all these consultants, right? And when I joined that department, there was like me and one other perm person, and there were 3 or 4 Robert Half consultants, and I didn't know what that meant at the time. It meant this is not a place you can be.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine called and said, "Hey, I saw you took that job. You shouldn't have." And I was really insulted. I was like, "How do you know that?" And stop, I just took this new job. They called me every quarter. And the 4th time they called, I said, "Yeah, I'm out. Like, I totally will look at consulting. Thank you."
Isn't that fascinating that one person can have I actually think I experienced that myself too, where I got shit canned from a printing job early in my 20s. And then that was what precipitated me to get into sales, where you had and he was a bad leader. He was terrible. And ruled with an iron fist and said things that you cannot say in a workplace and things like that. You also experienced a negative leader, but had a positive trajectory, positive impact on your trajectory, which is in a weird way is a gift. Like, do you ever think about that?
I do. On the one hand, kind of practically, nobody quits their perm job to go into consulting, right? That's a leap you just don't take. It's not rational that you would give up your steady paycheck for what I will argue is a much more satisfying and an efficient way to work. But there's some risk involved. And so there's got to be something. The pain has to be bad enough for you to think about this other thing. Not everybody. Some people just are less risk averse and just do it. But yes, absolutely. That was the luckiest thing that could have happened. And the ability to look around and say, "I can't do this anymore," is really hard, right? I talk to people all the time who are miserable, and I just say, "Hey, it's not going to get better. Let's make a change."
Yeah. And those are a lot of people that you're talking to probably, that you partner with at Scouts and things like that. All right. So let's get into some of the Scouts stuff. So how did Scouts come about? How did you come in alignment with them? Tell me the Scouts story.
So my business partners at Scouts were the 2nd and 3rd employees at Salo. So they were really instrumental in building Salo into what it was. Mm-hmm. And then both left for various reasons and ultimately wanted to do this work, this valuable work, valuable for clients and valuable for consultants. I would say Scouts is really, high level of service, high touch service, both again to the clients and the consultants, and very transparent and honest and long-term partnerships. So there was a desire to come together and do it on our own terms. So that's where our beginnings came. And I came into Scouts. Mark Flaherty, my business partner, had placed me on my first job when I had that bad perm job. I walked out on a Monday morning. I'm not proud of that, but it was so cool.
Yeah. Felt like a badass. Yeah.
Walked out, called Mark, came into the office, got placed in 4 days, right? I mean, it was kind of a heyday for consulting and just stayed happy with that. So I had known Mark really well for a long time and just came to Scouts to see, should I get another consulting job? And Mark and Gwen said, "Hey, we really, we're both on the sales side. We really need someone to head up our talent division." And I had been in business development at Certus, and that was great. And I learned a bunch about the business, but that's not my passion. Hanging out with really smart and curious accountants on a daily basis, that's what I get to do, right? I'm just the top of the talent in this town and people doing amazing things. So heading up the talent division and getting to know the consultants is what I get to do now. So that was just an absolutely perfect fit.
Yeah. And, we've got, I've had people on this podcast that do the sales side of things that are in client acquisition and stuff like that. I just think one thing I thought that is super, super interesting about you, even the first time I met you, is that granted, I get it. You're a partner there. Clients are paramount. Somebody's got to pay the bills to, be able to bring this talent on and all this other stuff. But you pour all your energy, everything that you do, minus the stuff that you do as being a partner and all this stuff again, but you pour all your energy and everything into the talent. And that's something that I just, frankly, I haven't had anybody on the show like that. I don't run into a lot of people that do that. And and you also too, like you exude that, like every time I talk to you, every time anybody talks to you, like that is 100% what has made your personal brand you. And do you think that it is something around all of the experience that you've had and like what fuels that passion for not only the people, but the actual consulting side of things and then also giving them the freedom that they deserve as financial professionals?
I do think that's the core of it. I think that it's we have our skills, our career full of skills, say as accountant or accounting and finance. But when you're working for the man, he's telling you what to do and how to do it and when to do it. And, I hate blaming things on the pandemic, right? But I think a lot of us kind of looked up and said, wait, I don't have to do it that way. I don't have to sit there. I don't have to, consulting was around before that. But this ability to take your talents and not only pick the assignments that you want. Hey, can I work on SAP this time? I've just had all these 5 Oracle jobs in a row, or, my career's so focused on financial services. I'd love to, sit in a software as a service company. Can we look for something like that? But also I think consulting is kind of rare in that it takes away some of the bureaucracy and the politics and the performance reviews and the meetings. You get this really rare opportunity to sit down and do what you do best. And then the client says, how'd you get that done already? And you're like, I was free to do it, right? I was empowered just to do what you asked me to do. Nobody gets to do that, right? It's really special. And there can be a superpower of that. Again, I was really buried in everything before you came and you just cleared all this murk away.
Yeah.
That's what I do,
Do you give people that are, let's say you find someone that is new to being a little bit of a, let's just use, I don't love the term fractional, but it is a term that's being used quite a bit.
Fractional means part-time.
Right. And so I think
40 hours.
That is a percentage that is a term that's being used. But also I think like, let's use the term free agent, right? Like someone who's a free agent that's just kind of out there and they've got the ability to do some of the work through Scouts, or they can do whatever they want. Do you find, what percentage of people do you think that give it a shot and they're just like, not for me, I need structure, I need the man, like I need that environment? Is there a percentage of people you run into that it's just like, I need that structure?
So I can winnow some of them out in the interview process, right? Mm-hmm. They are the type that it's going to be kind of coming to the end of their assignment and they're going to be panicking. What if I don't get placed again? What if I don't have work for 2 weeks? I hope you have a 2-week nest egg, but and then some of it get into it, and then they'll convert to perm at like their first or their second job, right? So they gave it a try, but they were, they're really receptive to going back to the man.
Yeah.
And hopefully that gave them a better shot to vet the company, vet the manager, right? Then the interview process, which is absurd because we all just say what we want anyway.
Tell them what they want to hear.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the people that we typically work with, I would call career consultants. So I was a career consultant for about 10 years. I wasn't just doing a temp job between. I loved porting in, solving the problem, and then not having to stick around and do it anymore, do it again. So you can tell those people, right? And then when you get to place them over and over again and their brand solidifies and you get better and better placements, it's delightful. It's what makes my day.
I don't want to get into the weeds too much, but from a structure standpoint, so when you bring someone on as talent, are they W-2 employees of Scouts Talent, or are they contract employees of your clients?
That's a great question. So they are W-2 employees from the first day of their assignment to the last day of their assignment. And typically career consultants work with 2 or 3 firms, 2 or 3 of my competitors that really understand them and that they trust. And so when that assignment is coming to an end, I'm going to try super hard with all of my resources to get you placed on my client again, to keep you working for me. I mean, 95% of the consultants. But if, at that end of time, the smart consultant activates their network. So there's 3 times as many salespeople looking for the perfect next engagement for them. So it's a fluid system, right? And I think of my talent pool as everyone who's doing this, whether they're working for me or my competition.
Yeah. All right, commercial time for Scouts. So why on earth would someone want to engage with Scouts talent? What are their pains that you're right? So let's keep it concise. Let's keep it little short. You could go for a half an hour. I guarantee you. I know you could. Anybody could on their own business, right? However, when someone's listening to this and they're like, all right, is this something that I would want to engage with them on? Like, what are the flags that pop up when it's like, okay, this is a good fit for us?
On the client side, right?
Yeah.
So really a client who is lacking either time or talent is the one who wants to call us, right? Because in the olden days, you thought somebody who worked for you was a permanent employee and sat in the chair for 40 hours a week. But suddenly you don't have time because you have a project that, a backlog, say, right? So I could spread that to my employees and work them to death and they might quit. Or I could just bring in someone in, scrape off that backlog, not trouble anybody else, right? Or equally important is the talent, right? Like, we've done all these acquisitions and our sales commission plan doesn't work anymore because it's 14 sales commission plan. So you bring in a sales finance expert who just writes, sales commission plans, understands how to motivate, understands the financial modeling to bring the pieces together and calculate it. They just whip that out and move on, right? So I think it's either you need some time or you need some talent that you don't have, and you can port it in for the period of time you need it, and then it goes away, and everybody's thrilled.
And what percentage is all of your business project work, like that kind of stuff? Like, hey, I've got this special project. I think about my previous company when we implemented an ERP system. We did it ourselves. It was a complete gong show. Partially our problem, and partially the software company was hot garbage. And so you combine those two, it turned into a nightmare. I wish we would have known about it. I wish a Scouts talent was around at the time. That was years ago, pre-Scouts talent, but like we didn't engage that. Is that like the normal engagement that you have is like project related things?
So I think half is interim. It's a critical chair that's empty, and you need somebody to come in, learn that by day 2 and take it forward until you hire or, someone on leave comes back. So about half is interim and about half is project.
Okay.
And typically a consultant would be, open to both. Those projects are a little more fun, right? Depending. So the empty chair can be a mess you can clean up too. And these are the kinds of things that consultants like to get their hands on.
Yeah. Let's get into some family stuff. You got a couple kids.
Oh, I do. Yeah. My daughter, Sydney, is just about to be 20. She's a freshman at the U. She had a gap year last year. She was an au pair in Spain. Cool. And that was tough for her because there was such a strong pipeline coming out of Edina High School to do what everybody else did. And she wasn't feeling it. And it was really hard for her to make that decision. So fast forward to today, where she's a year older and a year worldlier, and she's crushing freshman year.
That's
she's
awesome.
I don't think I can get her to be an accountant. She hasn't taken the first class. I think she's thinking strategic communications. And I know some really cool, I really value communications, frankly. And I think that could go in a bunch of ways. And I also think a 4-year degree is a 4-year degree. And it's, so dumb that we spend so much money checking that box. But
yeah, it is. I mean, I can go down a rabbit hole on how the education system needs to change and stuff like that. However, that being said, like I think the maturation that comes from that, and the direction she wants to go, and she's 23 and getting out of college versus or 24 or whatever, and then getting out of college, and then what that looks like at 30 are two very different things. Yeah.
So if you and me want to start a gap year company, I'm totally open to that. Like no one should learn how to be a grown up while their parent pays tuition. It's just dumb, right?
I do agree with that. Yeah. And then you have another child.
Yeah, Charlie just turned 17. He's a junior at Edina High School. I think he can hear me, so I'll be careful and say living his best life. Just a super dynamic, fun, funny, adventurous kid. Like you, I don't think he's a great choice for college right out of high school. We're thinking Coast Guard, and I have an action item to recruiter, which just seems like, what? Yeah, like that's a funny step. I mean, I'll jump into that, and see how that goes. I like that you had to go and have it be a bad experience. So I like this idea of maybe we don't all have to go, maybe, and maybe we go later or whatever. So I think it's good to have options, right? To not have to fit into the box.
I don't think there was a box that I could have fit in at that time. So if you can create a new box, then let him create a new box, right?
Yeah, look at you now, Aaron.
Oh yeah, well, I always figure it out, right? Scrape my knees a couple times, and we'll always figure it out. Do you? What do you think the next? You're a business owner. You got a couple kids. You're going to be an empty nester here pretty soon, probably. Like, what does the future hold for you in the next few years after Charlie graduates high school? Let's paint a picture a little bit, maybe 3-5 years out or something like that. What do you got going on? Like some, maybe even in conjunction with some side passions, volunteering, any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So my friend said the other day, your 50s are like your 20s with money. So I like that, right?
Yeah, hell yeah. That's awesome.
Back to fewer obligations, but some more means.
Yeah.
And I also think your career, what was this? Sometimes your career pulls into the rest stop, right? And then you get back on the road. So I like this idea of, I don't want to say, continuing to invest in the growth of Scouts talent and continuing to, create strong teams and having that really optimized. We've just started EOS, which I'm super excited about. So, so I see that as just a really big cornerstone of success and satisfaction going forward. I don't necessarily want to say travel because that's such a thing that every single person says, but that's fun, right? Having some more time and some money and maybe not be a tourist, maybe be a traveler a little bit.
Yeah.
And then because you asked about volunteer work, I'm super excited about my role at the Chicago Avenue Fire Arts Center. And I always have to ask, have you ever heard of it?
Nope. You said it before we even started recording. And I was like, I don't even know what the hell that is. So yes, educate me.
So my involvement is because it was founded and continues to be run by my two best friends. So I had no choice. And at a certain point, joined the board as a treasurer and blah, blah, blah. But briefly, it is a fire arts center producing art forms through heat, spark, and flame. So think blacksmithing, casting, welding. What's that?
Glass blowing.
Glass blowing is at a sister organization of ours called FOSI. There is stained glass. There's jewelry making is now our second most popular program. And it started both as a way to both my friends lived in South Minneapolis, and that neighborhood had expressed some interest in changing some of the neighborhood dynamics through an art center. It's located at 38th in Chicago, which has led to opportunities. And when you have the power to move metal, it's really... Most people don't have that power, right?
Yeah, right.
And there's certain people who've had a voice. There's it's women led, frankly, and there's not a lot of women blacksmiths. So that's a piece of it. There's been a long-standing partnership with, what's it called? Minneapolis Homeschool, Juvie, right?
Yeah,
so giving kids who don't have a different way to express themselves the power to create art and use their voice in ways that they haven't. So there's classes, and then there's studio space. If you don't want to do welding in your garage, so you could do it there. And then there's a public art component. There's a piece in the Walker Sculpture Garden, and that's essentially artists who would partner with the fire arts to get some of that fabrication done. The artists get the commissions and do the art, but use the center. So it's super fun. And that's opened up for me a creative side that I don't know all adults have access to. I've done a couple of art shanties, which has just been a total blast. Plug for the Art Shanty Festival in January and February. And it's always been there, but this is just a good way to channel it.
Well, we'll add are you cool with us adding a couple of those links to your bio on our podcast page? Yeah. Along with Scouts and all that other stuff. All right. let's take a quick break. Let's do 9 questions. Let's get after this. I got 9 good ones for you. We're going to take a quick break. Come back with Susan after this break. I've listened to a few of our community supporters that help keep this thing going.
United Healthcare is dedicated to helping people live healthier lives and making the health system work better for everyone by simplifying the healthcare experience, meeting consumer health and wellness needs, and sustaining trusted relationships with care providers. UHC is continually focused on building a modern, high-performing health system via improved access, affordability, outcomes, and experiences. With a network of over 1.6 million physicians and healthcare professionals in over 6,000 hospitals, United Healthcare is dedicated to connecting employers and their employees to better health by offering quality benefits designed for affordability. For more information, visit United Healthcare at www.uhc.com. United Healthcare, helping people live healthier lives. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Your business is having challenges with adding revenue, or you're ready for quicker growth and scale. Your sales team lacks a coach or mentor to help guide and excel their production. And you're not quite sure who the best resource is for sourcing and replacing sales professionals on your team. When you're looking for a company that provides sales solutions that drive growth, look up SalesHomie. SalesHomie is the premier fractional CRO or VP sales agency, additionally offering sales recruiting and placement services, sales leadership coaching, and sales team training programs. Don't put your business at risk with low revenues and uninspired sales professionals. Learn more about SalesHomie by visiting their website at saleshomie.com. SalesHomie, sales solutions that drive growth. Verseek Search and Consulting is thrilled to support Coalition9 for another exciting year. Verseek is a Minnesota-based, high-performance recruiting firm that specializes in interim solutions, direct hire, and executive leadership search. Our team of experienced professionals and seasoned leaders across various areas of expertise and industries have been in your shoes. We quickly assess your whole company and identify key elements that will take your business to the next level. Your company's success hinges on the capacity of your people, and a few areas of your business are more critical than your finance and accounting team. You need talent who can move the needle while winning the trust of leaders and stakeholders within your organization. Your people make it possible. Verseek can help connect you with the talented candidates within finance and accounting for consulting or direct hire needs, as well as within the industry areas in executive search, direct hire, and interim solutions. People are the ultimate business advantage. Find your people together with Verseek and make the best possible for your business. Learn more by visiting Verseek.com and by following Verseek on LinkedIn. Tradition Capital Bank is a local bank that has the products and capabilities to service middle market companies, nonprofits, and their owners, employees, and families by offering a high-touch approach paired with customizable solutions. Think of them as your nimble ally serving with generosity, care, and precision. Tradition starts with the assumption that there's always more to learn, try, and discover, aiming to find the best yes for whomever they have the privilege of working beside. From a foundation of trust, Tradition takes disciplined, smart risks to help people grow beyond what they even thought possible. Tradition Capital Bank is the second largest privately owned bank headquartered in the Twin Cities, and with locations in Edina, Wayzata, and North Oaks, Minnesota, alongside their office in Scottsdale, Arizona, Tradition Capital Bank is committed to big bank offerings with a small bank ethos. Let their team be the friend you need in your next financial move. As a boutique Twin Cities-based investment banking firm, Madeira Partners works closely with family, founder, and management-owned businesses, bringing over 25 years of experience and hundreds of successful transactions to the table. It's in their DNA to educate owners on what potential exit opportunities look like, along with any industry or company-specific things to think about to make your business more attractive to potential buyers. Regardless if you want to sell tomorrow or in 10 years, the team at Madeira Partners would love to provide their expertise and guidance along the way. Take some time to explore their website at madeirapartners.com. Madeira Partners, your life's work deserves our best work. Regardless if you're a startup just figuring things out or a medium-sized organization with a full team, having a legal partner by your side is crucial. Seiler Law is fiercely loyal to their clients and are passionate about removing headaches and roadblocks that can pop up during the growth of your business. Whether you need general outside counsel, are planning a business transaction, or even need someone to guide you through the estate planning process, the team at Seiler Law are the advocates for you. Visit seilerlaw.com to learn more. Seiler Law, where experience meets pragmatism. In addition to our amazing prospering and thriving level supporters, we want to shine a spotlight on our equally amazing evolving level supporters: Alliant Insurance Services, Bauer Design Build, Beyond Design Resource Group, Entrabank, Fluid Interiors, and Modern Foundation. All of the Coalition 9 community supporters can be found at coalition9.com/community-supporters. All right, we're back here with Susan. We're going to fire up some 9 questions specifically curated for you. Can you confirm to me that you have no idea what I'm about to ask you?
I have no idea. I was told to prep for this and I didn't, so I really have no idea.
Good. All right. I like that. No prep is good. Question 1. What are 3 words that describe you?
Smart, funny, Paul.
Good. Right. Those are all very accurate. Yes. Good answer. Have you
also could be on my dating profile.
Right. All right. Well, we're not going to add that link to the podcast as much as you maybe want us to. Okay, good. Have you ever had a nickname?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. So like I kind of fancy myself a little bit cool. And so I changed the spelling of my name before I moved in high school to Sue, Sioux, because I thought that was kind of indie. And then so in high school and college, I was Sue. And as a result of that, I was sometimes called Chief. So the only nickname I've ever had is Chief. And I kind of love that.
Yeah. What do you enjoy spending money on? Being a finance person, what do you enjoy spending your own money on?
My kids. I don't want that to be my answer. It's true.
Yeah. You feel good about some of that money going out that you're pouring into them?
I do. So my second answer would be live music.
Oh, sweet. I don't know if I have any questions. Oh yeah, I do have some music related questions. Good. Describe the perfect dinner.
It's got to be steak, potatoes, asparagus. And it used to be a super dirty gin martini.
Yeah. Used to be?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What is a guilty pleasure that you choose to indulge in?
Reading is the word that comes to mind. I'm a little bit anti-guilty pleasure because I think we should just be pleased.
Yeah. I think that's a great, no one has ever said that statement there at the end. And I agree with that. I don't know how I would have articulated that, but I think that was beautifully articulated. So love that. I'm in alignment with that. Name one thing on your bucket. You talked about travel, right? Maybe becoming a traveler, not going on trips and things like that. Name one thing on your bucket list.
Getting back to the Great Barrier Reef.
Are you a diver?
Yeah, I did a study abroad in Sydney for a semester, and I feel super lucky in my life. One of the luckiest things I ever did was align with the scuba diving club, and we went for 3 weeks on the Great Barrier Reef in this absurd adventure. No adults, like literally swimming with hammerheads. Deadly poisonous snake wrapped around my thigh, licking me with his fork tongue. I mean, no lie, I swam on top of a manta ray, it would have been a manta ray, like a 9-foot manta ray. Wow. I mean, just right. And so I want more than anything to go back, especially before the reef is gone.
That's a whole nother podcast about the sadness that reef deteriorating. Not for me to host. So we talked about music. I had a different question, but I'm going to pivot here a little bit. Most memorable concert.
Going with the just first thing that came to my mind, in the last couple years, my friends and I went to Red Wing. I want to call it the Sherburne Theater, and that's not what it's called, but it was a recently refurbished theater. And we saw the Bad Bad Hats, which are a local band. They have a McAllister connection. They're hilarious. And the lead singer is just hilarious. Great. I love it when the band talks to you and we're dying. And then Low, Alan Sparhawk, and at the time his wife Mimi of Low played, and that was just like super dramatic because they are. And then I think the headliner was Cloud Cult, and I don't know if you know Cloud Cult at all. They were all local artists, and they have live painting on the stage and multi-instrumental, and that was really magic. I love all 3 of those local bands in a big way.
And I love that you chose, indie slash local bands rather than some big thing. So it says a lot about your style slash personality that I think we've all got a little bit of a picture of. Where do you go for inspiration?
Oh, maybe here. we talked a little bit about like career phases and, with this mom thing getting in there, right? Maybe I'm moving fast a lot of times. And then maybe I'll say also plug for hybrid work where you're doing one thing when you're in the office and then
Mhm.
you're kind of back in this spot and you're
Mhm.
kind of like slowing down and doing some of your thoughts. So that's a super unformed answer. I could
Yeah.
stand to do a little more inspiration.
Yeah. But I think, it could be right in your home, right? It could be a certain
Yeah.
chair or something like that. There's no wrong answer to that, right? You're you. All right, last one. This one fast. If you could go on a weekend vacation with any two people on Earth, but not anyone in your family, who would they be?
Well, I would for sure take my bestie, Victoria. I met her the first week of McAllister, and frankly, I see her probably every week. That's her dog. And we are good adventure buddies. And I take my brother. He's fantastic, and I don't see him enough. He is even more smart and funny and tall, maybe. I don't know. He's
Oh,
fantastic.
sweet. He's family, but I'm going to let that one slide because I
Oh,
have
shoot. I'm sorry.
because I had, oh, it's good. It's not immediate family. And, I just didn't want you to say your kids. And so if you were to say, your two kids, I'm like, come on, let's get crazy here.
Spoken as a childless person, Aaron,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
would not
right.
be the
Yeah,
choice. No, no, no.
that's why I asked that
Yeah.
question.
No, people
With
who say that are
that
lying.
caveat. Yeah, yes, I agree with that. They're just saying it because they're on a podcast. Um, Susan, I tell you, this is true to form why I wanted you to be on the podcast. Your personality is awesome. You're super, super likable. Hence the reason why I liked you the second I met you. And you make our community better. You make obviously C9 better, but I think the greater business community better, not only with the work that you're doing, but also the passion that you're pouring into the work that you're doing and volunteer work and all that other stuff. So one, thank you so much for being on the podcast and being a part of our community. And then two, how can if people are going to want to learn about you and want to get to know you a little bit better, how can people find you?
Well, right away, they can call me or text me at 952-484-6947.
Right.
Particularly if you are a engaging accounting or finance person, I would love to talk to you about anything. No, but all that information is frankly on the website and on LinkedIn as well. You could reach out to me on LinkedIn, but it'd be a lot easier if you reach out to me directly.
I know you one of the very few people that just broadcasted your cell phone. So we will put links to some of the things we talked about, specifically Scout's Talent and your LinkedIn profile. We are not going to put your cell phone number in the podcast notes because some bullshit AI thing is going to go find it, and then you're going to get hit up with a bunch of stuff. So, but I will implore people to go ahead, reach out to Susan, get to know her a little bit, especially if you're a finance professional or someone that has financial needs. Susan's your person.
Hey, Aaron, we might be running out of time, but I wanted to just tell you thank you. C9 has really enriched my life. I feel like I was kind of an early member. I think I started, you had to tell me, I think I started in early 2021. My cohort are lifelong friends of mine. I really wouldn't want to go forward without them. They've helped me with some big stuff. And equally, I would say your networking events, like so brilliant. It's just the best people in the Twin Cities in one room together. I was just having breakfast with another C9 member. I just hired a C9 member. You are an excellent curator of people, and you're putting it together in a way that really makes sense. And again, has really done a lot for me. I really appreciate you and Coalition9.
Well, if you were trying to get me to cry, you got damn close. Anybody who's on YouTube can see I got a little bit of getting a little misty here. So, Susan, that is the biggest gift you could have given me to wrap this podcast up. So that means the world, more than you could ever imagine, sister. So on behalf of Susan, let me get my shit together here. On behalf of Susan, this has been the Power of Nine podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Eggert, and I want to thank you for the privilege of your time.